Hello everyone, welcome to the Standards Talk. Today we have one of our eminent speaker, Professor Mahesh Verma, sir. He is Padam Shri and Vice Chancellor from Guru Gobind Singh Indraprastha University. Sir is also chairman for our sectional committee, Education, Skill Development and Related Services, SSD 04. So sir, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you. Thank you.
So most people associate standards with products.
Yes.
Very few of them realize that standards also exist for services. So why do ordinary citizens should care about service standards?
Yeah, I think it's a very good question. Traditionally, we have always been talking standards for a product which we can buy, which we can feel, which is tangible. But today, if we look at our day-to-day life, we consume hundreds of services, directly and indirectly. For example, a family wants to go for a holiday. So they will book a ticket online. hmm, They will hire a cab, again, maybe online. Then they will take a transport, maybe a flight or a train or a bus, and they will stay in a hotel. And if suppose something happens, they may have to go to a hospital if there is some incidence of some illness or some in the family while they're in the hotel. Now, if you look at it, if you analyze, every step is requiring services.
Right.
And today, you see, because services are intangible, it cannot be felt. Services are variable. You know, there is a scope that services can vary. And then services are delivered through people and processes. So there is a likelihood that it can affect, it can change. For example, there is a hospital which has the same equipment, and but then it gives a different experience to two patients, or a hospital or a restaurant which is which is serving the same cuisine, but then giving a different experience. So, and today, if you look at the entire, lifestyle, keeping in mind that we are using services, so we have to standardize those services so that the quality ensured. There are benchmarks, there are framework, how those services are designed, those are delivered, and not only just delivered, they're improved over the time. So I think there is a whole lot of whole lot of standards are required, so that services are standardized, and because ultimately, utilizing these services will create that trust. Because services are another thing about services is that you can only know about a service when you consumed it. You ordered a food, you paid for it, and then you ate it, and then you found it was no good. So how do you ensure that you have ordered a service, you have sought a service, and that service conforming to a proper standard? That is why we need standards for services also today.
India has long been creating a manufacturing standards. So why there is need to create a specific service sector department at BIS?
If you look at India, what has happened to India in the last couple of decades? India's economy is now, it is doubled or trebled. And if you look at it, if you analyze, the service sector forms a very, very strong part of the economy. If you look at our GDP today, which is gross domestic product, which includes goods and services, you'll be amazed that 56 to 58% of is to the GDP is contribution by the services. agriculture about 16 to 18%, and industry 26 to 28%. So look at it, more than 50% of economy GDP contribution comes from services. So today, services have become a growth engine. It has become a trajectory for growth for any country, and millions of jobs are, around these services. So it's so important today that we create a framework. We ensure that these services are standardized, and so that ultimately every consumer, not only it contributes to economy of the country, but it also satisfies a consumer. And today, services are no longer restricted to the country. We are providing services all over the world. So we have to ensure that these services are standardized, and any standard will give you a minimum, that this is the minimum is there, and then there is a scope. Then when you improve the quality, as I said, the standards also are pathways to further improving the quality and leading it to excellence level. So it is also when we have standards, it will contribute to industry. It indirectly benefit other sectors also. Industry, agriculture. Today we have services in so many spheres: education, healthcare, IT, financial services, accounting services, logistics and transportation. So there are galore of services areas today. So it's very important that the BIS, who is responsible for formulation of standards, it's very important for them that in this emerging sector of services, they need to create SSD, services sector department. And when they create SSD, they bring multiple stakeholders into it. They bring industry, they bring academia, they bring experts, they bring regulators, they bring other stakeholders, they bring government into it. So all different stakeholders, and they are the one who decide how to formulate a standard and how to align it. Because ultimately you want to give a service which is of quality, which is fair, which is safe, and which is reliable. So SSD via BIS, it initiates, it develops, and it aligns the standards.
So, as you shared your thoughts about these standards, so people might assume that these standards are limited to hotels and hospitals, but I think the scope is much wider. So, can you tell us what are the various sectors other than these that the BIS service standards covers?
Ever since I got associated with BIS, I learned. In fact, it was also quite a bit of learning for me. And this was the most exciting part. If you really today assume that a student is taking an online class or taking a coaching, going to a coaching center, or or a patient going to a hospital, or a gamer who's downloaded a game from internet, or similarly, you see, like a family is awaiting a courier. All these. If you look at, in every walk of life, every area of day-to-day life, there are services, as we already said. So, if today we are very happy that BIS has already published 187 service standards in 12 champion sectoral areas, which is identified by Government of India. So there are a huge lot of areas where standards exist in hotel industry, hospitality, in education, in healthcare, in IT-related services, in legal services, construction engineering services, logistic and transport services, environmental services, so on and so forth. So there are a whole lot of areas where where these standards exist, and BIS puts a lot of effort to create these standards, create these standards, harmonize them, and align them, uh, promote certification for standardization, and also ensure that these are safe, and they are ethical, they are efficient, and they ultimately lead to a benchmark. See, benchmark is a standard. So any service has to be compared to a benchmark, which is a standard. So ultimately, all these standards are developed, initiated, developed, created, and then ultimately leading to a benchmarking of them. So that these are the benchmarks, and that is the minimum we have to. They have to meet the consumer's expectation, and of course, then there is no scope. Then there is no limit beyond that we can really elevate them to excellence level and further innovate them. Suppose you order something and you get something in addition to that. That's like taking the service to another level. So BIS is very strong as far as setting standards, creating standards, in service sector.
So for somebody listening to us today, so what are the like tangible differences service standard do make in our day-to-day life?
I think it really, in fact, these standards, ever since they've been around, it has made a lot of difference to every consumer's life. You see, and the companies are also vying with each other so that they conform to do these compliances and conform to these set standard. I want to give you an example. Suppose I want to take my child to a coaching center, to select a coaching center where I want to admit my child, for a coaching classes. So I want to go. I want to see that they have the right infrastructure. They have good faculty, qualified faculty. They have transparent fee structure. They have a right grievance redressal mechanism. That suppose there is any issue, how they will manage the grievance, and is it the environment safe? So these are some of my questions may come to my mind. So the standards answer these expectations. All that expectation which a consumer has are answered by standards. So ultimately, it makes a lot of difference to a consumer to make informed decisions, about quality, about safety, about fairness, about uh, fairness, trust, transparency, efficiency, economy. You also want your service to be economic, not very expensive, isn't it? And the rights of a consumer, his accessibility, inclusivity, it should be available for everybody, and it should be reliable, and ultimately affecting the quality of life. So all these things, there's a reduced ambiguity in any service. So all these things ultimately create that trust, in a consumer's mind, and the consumer ultimately becomes more confident about that service. And in his mind, he is assured that he is going to get a quality service. So it's a very win-win situation where a standard is helping a consumer, and a consumer is contributing to economy, and that economy is resulting in the growth the growth of the nation. So it's a cycle which is a very productive cycle. So ultimately, helping the nations, helping the world, through service sector.
So today we are recognized as one of the world's leading economies. So how BIS ensures that India's voice is represented while shaping these international standards?
See, today you cannot isolate uh, services. In fact, any service is available all over the world, isn't it? Suppose we develop IT-related services, a platform through that which is used all over the world. In hospitality sector, tourism, it connects people from all over the world. Hospitals, we get patients from all over the world, isn't it? So today, the service sector has truly become a global. So I think, it is time that BIS, which is our national body for laying the standards, is not just restricted to India. It also contributes because as the standards are truly global now, our standards have to match up, align with global standards. Then only our services will be sought after other parts of the world, isn't it? So, and India has its own realities, own experiences, so those also have to be incorporated into the international standards while those are being framed, isn't it? So, we not just adopt the standards, but we also contribute to create the standards. So, keeping this in mind, BIS is a member of many of the international bodies, primarily ISO, International Organization for Standards, ISO, and IEC, International Electrotechnical Commission. And India is part of many leadership, many committees there, in many working groups, in many projects. We contribute. Our members contribute. Many of our BIS, technical experts are part of those international committees. So we contribute. And India has a great experience in service sector. I want to give you example of Aadhaar, UPI, DigiLocker, COVID during COVID. So all these, so when these standards are, being framed, how our experiences also contributed in development and refining of the international standard. So ultimately, these standards, the BIS and international bodies, they harmonize standards, they create standards, and in different sectors, service sectors, ultimately for the larger benefit, larger interest of the consumers and the nations, and the services. As I already said, the services are not restricted to any particular country. Those services are available to every person all over the world.
So finally, what would you like every consumer to remember about the service standards we have talked about today?
Yeah. I think ultimately everything, all roads lead to a consumer, isn't it? And, see, there is a difference between a product and a service for a consumer. Product gets noticed, but the service has to be experienced. And unless you have experienced it, you really you don't really know about it. But a good service is always remembered. Product is forgotten. Remember your experience in a hospital where you had a good time, or a holiday, or a restaurant where you enjoyed your food, isn't it? So all those services become memories. They linger on, they sustain with you. So that's a very good thing about services. And uh, today, services, as I said, we are aspiring to be a Viksit Bharat, isn't it? We want our economy to be reliable, to be, to be globally recognized. So service sector standardization is so important, so important. Services, we experience services every day, so its impact of services is very huge on our life. It's very profound. So, and you see, the quality begins with a consumer. A informed consumer, a consumer who's aware, who's informed, will demand quality, isn't it? It will inspire innovation. It will inspire growth of industry. It will inspire innovation, excellence. So, and also, when a aware consumer, uh, demands a quality, industry grows, and when industry grows, it contributes to economy of the nation, and ultimately, you know the nation flourishes. So it all starts with the informed consumer. So consumer has to demand quality, consumer has to be aware of a quality, and that quality awareness begins from standards, from standardization. So, these experiences of services and and the standards which is set in by BIS are like a hand in glove. They are all intertwined together.
Thank you so much, sir, to being with us today. And I would also like to thank every listener who has joined us today.